Imagine a single mother, drowning in debt, her son's life hanging by the thread of a nebulizer, finding a wallet stuffed with $5,000, enough to change everything. She chooses honesty, tries to return it, only to be accused of theft, humiliated, and fired. But just as her world crumbles, the wallet's owner, a reclusive billionaire, walks back into the diner, demanding answers. What happens next isn't just a twist of fate, it's a collision of kindness, redemption, and a note that will leave you speechless. Stick around, because this story will grip your heart and not let go until the final moment. The smell of stale coffee and sizzling bacon grease was the perfume of Jenna Morales' life. It clung to her clothes, her hair, and her weary spirit. At 6:02 a.m., the lights of the Golden Spoon Diner flickered on, casting a jaundiced glow over worn red vinyl booths and checkered linoleum floors. For Jenna, it was another Tuesday, another 14-hour shift on her feet, juggling coffee pots and placating impatient customers for a wage that barely kept the lights on in her cramped second-floor apartment. The real weight wasn't the job, though. It was Noah, her 7-year-old son, the son in her universe. His bright, curious laugh could melt glaciers, but it was too often cut short by a ragged, desperate gasp for air. Noah's severe asthma was a constant, lurking monster, kept at bay by expensive prescriptions and nebulizer treatments. The copays, emergency inhalers, and specialist visits were a financial tidal wave pulling Jenna under. An eviction notice sat tucked under a magnet on her fridge, a stark white rectangle of shame she tried not to look at. Morales, you're on opening duty. Table 7's coffee is cold, and they just sat down. Try to keep up today, will you? The voice belonged to Dennis Peterson, the diner's manager, a man whose ambition outstripped his talent, leaving him bitter and obsessed with the small fiefdom he ruled. He lived by the corporate manual, a 3-inch binder he treated like scripture, using policy to bludgeon any hint of individuality or common sense out of his staff. Yes, Mr. Peterson, Jenna replied, her voice a practiced monotone. She grabbed a fresh coffee pot, her movements efficient, automatic. Years of this work had turned her body into a machine: pour, smile, take the order, repeat. The morning rush was a blur of faces and orders: scrambled, over easy, bacon crisp, bacon limp. Jenna moved through it with detached grace, her mind 1,000 miles away, calculating. Pharmacy bill, $187. Rent, 2 weeks late. Noah needs new shoes. The numbers swirled in her head, a dizzying ballet of debt and despair. Her only ally was Brenda, a heavy-set woman in her late 50s with a cynical sense of humor and a heart of gold. During a brief lull, Brenda leaned against the counter, refilling salt shakers. He's on a tear today, she muttered, nodding toward Peterson's office. Got an email from corporate about optimizing profit margins. For him, that means counting napkins we give out. Jenna forced a weak smile. Tell me something I don't know. Brenda's eyes softened. You look tired, honey. Is Noah okay? Same as always. Rough night. The humidifier helps, but Jenna's voice trailed off. Brenda understood every parent's worst fear was not being able to provide, to protect. For Jenna, that fear was a constant ache in her chest. Around 11:30 a.m., as the lunch crowd trickled in, it happened. A man had sat alone in booth 12, a quiet, elderly gentleman in a simple tweed jacket. He'd ordered black coffee and oatmeal, read a newspaper, left a generous tip, and slipped away unnoticed. Jenna barely registered him beyond his polite smile. As she cleared his table, her hand brushed something thick wedged between the seat cushion and the booth's wall. She pulled out a men's wallet, dark, well-worn leather, heavy in her hand. Her heart fluttered. Company policy, drilled into them by Peterson, was clear: all lost property must be surrendered to the manager immediately for logging and storage in the company safe. No exceptions. Glancing toward Peterson's office, she saw him on the phone, gesticulating wildly, face red, likely arguing over ketchup packet prices. Turning it in now meant a lecture, forms in triplicate, and Peterson pontificating about chain of custody. I'll wait till he's off the phone, she thought. Quicker, less fuss. She slipped the wallet into her apron's deep pocket, its weight a foreign object against her thigh. She had every intention of turning it in 5 minutes, 10 at most. It was the right thing to do. The only thing. But as she greeted a new family sliding into a booth, she had no idea this simple, honest intention was about to cost her everything. The wallet's weight in Jenna's apron was a constant reminder. Through 3 lunch orders and a half-dozen coffee refills, it pressed against her leg, pulling at her conscience. Peterson was still on his call, his angry rumble vibrating through his office door. Finally, a momentary calm settled over the diner. Jenna ducked into the narrow, dimly lit employee breakroom, a closet-sized space smelling of instant soup and disinfectant. Her heart hammered with a frantic anxiety she couldn't explain. She hadn't done anything wrong, she was just holding the wallet until Peterson was free. Still, curiosity gnawed at her. What if there was an ID? She could find the man's name, maybe a phone number, and call him directly, sparing everyone Peterson's bureaucratic nightmare. With trembling fingers, she pulled out the wallet. The soft, worn leather opened with a gentle sigh. Her breath caught at the sight of a thick stack of $100 bills. Discreetly, she fanned the edge with her thumb. 10, 20, 30, she stopped counting at 50. $5,000, maybe more. The number echoed in her mind, drowning out the distant clang of pots and pans. It wasn't just money, it was a solution. Past due rent paid. Medical bills silenced. A new nebulizer for Noah. A month, maybe 2, without poverty's suffocating grip. Her mind raced, painting a seductive picture. Who would know? The man was old, unassuming. He might not remember how much cash he had, or even this diner. He could be a tourist, already gone. She could take it, pay her bills, and no one would be the wiser. Noah's face flashed in her mind, his small chest heaving during a nighttime asthma attack, and her resolve wavered. Wasn't her son's health worth more than some wealthy stranger's pocket money? Then her gaze fell on a photograph tucked behind a leather flap. She slid it out, an old, faded image of a young woman with a radiant smile, her hair styled in a way that screamed decades past. A younger version of the Booth 12 gentleman stood behind her, hands on her shoulders, both beaming with love. On the back, in delicate cursive, Arthur and Genevieve, 1978. Our bench. Something shifted in Jenna. The cash was impersonal, but this photo was a life, a memory, a piece of someone's soul. Taking the money would be stealing more than cash, it would violate that sacred memory. The temptation, so logical moments before, now felt monstrous. Her struggles didn't give her the right to inflict pain on someone else. She sifted through the wallet for an ID, finding a platinum card with the name Arthur Pendleton in simple block letters. No address, no phone number, just the name. She tucked the photo back, closed the wallet, and took a steadying breath. The temptation had passed, leaving a clear sense of purpose. She'd march into Peterson's office, hand over the wallet, and endure his lecture. Stepping back into the diner, she saw Peterson off the phone, scowling at the cash drawer. "Mr. Peterson," she began, reaching into her apron. But before she could pull out the wallet, he turned, his eyes cold with triumph. "Morales. My office. Now." The walk to his office felt like a mile on broken glass. Every eye in the diner seemed to follow her, Brenda's worried glance, the cook's frozen spatula. Peterson's office was charmless, a cheap desk littered with papers, a 3-year-old manager of the month certificate, and a grainy security monitor. He didn't invite her to sit, pointing a thick finger at the screen. "I saw you, Morales." The footage showed her finding the wallet at 11:34 a.m., slipping it into her apron, serving tables, and entering the breakroom. 22 minutes, he spat. "You concealed lost property, violating policy. That's intent to steal." Jenna's head spun. "I was waiting for you to get off the phone. I was going to give it to you." She placed the wallet on his desk. "See? Nothing's missing. I was looking for the owner's name, Arthur Pendleton." Peterson laughed, a cruel bark. "A likely story. You're desperate, Morales. I know your type, always needing advances, thinking you hit the jackpot." His accusations twisted like knives, painting her as a thief, her poverty proof of guilt. "You're terminated. Effective immediately. Get your belongings and get out." Humiliation washed over her, hot and sickening. He followed her to the counter, announcing to the diner, Starlight Hospitality Group does not tolerate theft. Customers stared, staff gasped. Jenna grabbed her purse and jacket, avoiding Brenda's pitying eyes, and stumbled out, the bell above the door chiming her pathetic exit. The walk home was a fog of disbelief. The city bustled, but Jenna was numb. At her tired apartment building, she climbed the stairs, each step amplifying Peterson's words, terminated. Thief. Her silent apartment was a stark contrast to Noah's usual post-school chatter. A note from her neighbor, Mrs. Gable, explained Noah was with her, giving Jenna a moment to process. But how could she? She had nothing, no job, no paycheck, and a false accusation clinging to her like bacon grease. What would she tell Noah? Jenna sank onto the worn couch, the eviction notice glaring from the fridge. Her phone buzzed, a text from Brenda. I'm so sorry, honey. Peterson's a pig. I'll try to talk to him. Jenna didn't reply. What was there to say? The weight of the day pressed her into the cushions, her mind replaying the accusation, the stairs, the bell's mocking chime. She was still there, staring at the ceiling, when a knock startled her. Mrs. Gable stood at the door, Noah beside her, his small face pale but smiling. Mom, he called, hugging her legs. Mrs. Gable let me draw with her markers. Jenna forced a smile, thanking her neighbor, who sensed something was wrong but didn't pry. After tucking Noah into bed, his nebulizer humming softly, Jenna sat at the kitchen table, head in her hands. The wallet's weight lingered in her memory, not its temptation, but the photo, Arthur and Genevieve's love frozen in 1978. She'd done the right thing, but it had cost her everything. Sleep eluded her that night, her mind a storm of fear and what-ifs. The next morning, Brenda called. Jenna, you need to come to the diner. Now. Her voice was urgent, almost breathless. What? Why? I'm fired, Brenda. Just trust me. Get here. Confused but desperate for any lifeline, Jenna left Noah with Mrs. Gable and took the bus back to the Golden Spoon. The familiar bell chimed as she entered, and Brenda rushed over, pulling her to a corner. He's here, she whispered, nodding toward booth 12. There sat the elderly man in the tweed jacket, Arthur Pendleton, sipping coffee, his expression calm but intense. Beside him was Peterson, looking pale and sweaty, shifting uncomfortably. Ms. Morales, Arthur said, standing as she approached, his voice soft but commanding. Please, sit. Jenna hesitated, glancing at Peterson, whose eyes darted away. She slid into the booth, heart pounding. Arthur's gaze was kind but piercing, like he could see through her. I understand you found my wallet yesterday, he began. And that you tried to return it. Jenna nodded, her throat tight. Yes, sir. I was going to give it to the manager, but, she trailed off, the humiliation still raw. Arthur raised a hand. I know what happened. Mr. Peterson was kind enough to show me the security footage after I insisted. Peterson squirmed, his bravado gone. Arthur continued, I also know you were fired for it. Accused of theft. His tone hardened slightly, and Peterson flinched. I'm a private man, Ms. Morales, but I own Starlight Hospitality Group. This diner, and every other in the chain, answers to me. Jenna's breath caught. The reclusive billionaire who owned the chain was sitting across from her, and he knew her name. I saw the footage, Arthur said. You didn't take a single bill. You looked at a photograph, my photograph, and you tried to find my name. Why? Jenna swallowed, her voice trembling. It was you and a woman, maybe your wife. It looked important. I couldn't take the money, not after seeing that. It felt wrong. Arthur's eyes softened, a flicker of pain crossing his face. That was Genevieve, my late wife. That photo is my most cherished possession. You saw its value, not the cash. He turned to Peterson. You, however, saw only policy and a chance to play judge. You're relieved of your duties, effective immediately. Peterson's jaw dropped, but he didn't argue, slinking away under Arthur's steely gaze. Arthur slid an envelope across the table. Open it later, he said. And meet me at the airport tomorrow, 8 a.m. sharp. The details are inside. Jenna blinked, stunned. The airport? Why? Arthur smiled faintly. You did the right thing, Ms. Morales. I'd like to do the same for you. Jenna barely slept that night, the envelope burning a hole in her purse. When she finally opened it, her hands shook. Inside was a note in elegant handwriting. Ms. Morales, your honesty saved more than my wallet, it restored my faith in people. I'm offering you a chance to start anew. The ticket will take you to Paris, where a job awaits at my company's new venture, a restaurant group. Bring your son. Details at the airport. Arthur Pendleton. Tucked beside the note was a first-class ticket to Paris and a check for $10,000, marked for Noah. Paris. The word felt like a dream. Jenna had spoken French fluently as a child, taught by her grandmother, and had once dreamed of studying abroad. That dream had died under the weight of bills and responsibility. Now, it was alive again. At the airport, Arthur greeted her and Noah, his demeanor warm but reserved. The job is yours if you want it, he said. A managerial role, training staff for our new Parisian diners. Housing and healthcare are covered, including Noah's treatments. Jenna's eyes welled up. Why me? She asked. Arthur glanced at Noah, playing with a toy plane nearby. Because you chose kindness over desperation. That's rare. And because I believe in second chances. The flight to Paris was a blur of nerves and excitement. Noah, clutching his toy plane, stared out the window, his eyes wide with wonder. Jenna thought of the diner, the eviction notice, the weight of poverty lifting. She'd spoken French to a customer once, a tourist at the diner, never imagining it would lead here. As the plane touched down, she felt something she hadn't in years, hope. Jenna's story isn't just about a wallet or a billionaire's note, it's about the power of doing the right thing, even when it hurts. From a diner's greasy booths to the streets of Paris, her choice to value a stranger's memory over her own desperation changed her life and her son's forever. What would you do with $5,000 and a chance to start over? Hold that thought, because the next story might just inspire you to find out. Stay tuned, and let kindness lead the way.